Hi, I'm Robin with Heirloom Roses.
And I'm Cara, and this is my husband Ben, and we're the owners of Heirloom Roses.
And we're here to talk to you today about fall planting. So Ben and Cara, can you tell me what is the best time to plant roses?
So I have a saying that the best time to plant roses is in the fall, and the second best time is today. And what I mean by that is that fall is the great time to establish new plants in your garden. The weather starts to get a little bit cooler, they do really well. You're just coming off a hot summer, and you can also see where everything should go. That being said, there's always a good time to plant roses. You don't just have to wait for the fall. They're really hardy and healthy and can do well in just about any climate in planting.
Right. A lot of our customers are concerned right now with the heat wave that we have going on. Is it difficult to plant in the heat? Should we be concerned about roses surviving through this heat?
You know, actually, roses love the heat, so they do really well, but they do need a water supply. And so you just need to make sure you have sprinklers or watering by hand available, and when it's hot, they need drinks. So that's how I would.
Is there a difference between planting in the spring and planting in the fall? Like, do I need to amend the soil the same? Do I need to water the same? What is the difference?
I think planting in the fall, you want to follow all the same planting instructions. You know, good, well-drained soil is important. Get your rose established in the ground. Other than that, there's not a lot of difference. And again, liquid fertilizer. And all of that, your rose should get off to a great start. In the fall, you might think, oh, it's going to go dormant right away. No, actually, plants will keep growing, especially in their root system, quite a ways into the fall until it really starts to get cold, and then they'll shut down.
So what is the difference between planting a bare root rose and a own root rose in the fall?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we get that a lot from our customers. Bare root roses can only be planted at a certain time in the spring. They're groomed and be needed to be in the ground in a certain time so that they can get their roots going and come out of dormancy. The beauty of own root roses is you can plant own root roses any time of the year as long as it's a good condition for your area in the country. The planting zone says yes, it's growing time or coming out of dormancy. So own root roses, it's a benefit to be able to plant anytime.
So if I've ordered my own root rose, how late can I wait to plant it? Have I missed the window?
You can plant own root roses up to 6 weeks before your first frost in the fall.
Okay, this might be a dumb question, but how do I find out when my first frost is?
Sure, on our website, you can enter your zip code, and that will tell you your zone. And then with that zone information on our website, it will tell you your estimated last frost date. And that's an estimate. It can vary a little bit, but generally 6 weeks before your last frost is a good safe time to plant your rose in the ground. It will get established before it goes dormant and be ready to go in the spring.
And what is the benefit of planting in the fall for like spring growth? Is it better for the rose? Is it going to struggle more in winter?
I have experienced that our roses grow, they get established in the fall, and so they're ready to take off in the spring. They just have a head start for the following year, and they've just done so well for us that it's just common for us to say planting in the fall is the best time to plant.
Another thing about that is that, if you think about the spring weather, and I'm getting excited to garden, but I look outside and it's really cold and rainy, and I don't really want to be outside. But the plants, that's where they live, and they're starting to wake up and grow already, and the root system's growing, and there's things happening with that plant that you can't see that might even be early February. So, if you planted it in the fall, that plant is going to wake up and have a better start in the spring and really come to life, and you're going to get a lot more growth that first year. Before you really want to get out and work in the yard, your roses are already working in the yard.
So I'm hearing for my cut flower garden, I need to plant now so that I have earlier blooms in the spring.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Are there any other benefits to planting in the fall?
I think a huge benefit of planting in the fall is that your yard or garden area is well established. Perennials have spread some, you know where everything is, and you also see the colors of what you have. And so you can find a rose that could fit in a certain area that seems a little bit more bare. And also you can find complementary colors at this time because you're seeing the beauty because the blooms are happening right now. So I think looking in your garden and in your yard at the end of summer when things are still blooming, finding that specific spot is a perfect time to think through what you want to add next.
And this might be a little bit geeky, but sometimes, we're gardeners, we have to do things geeky. You might even take a stake and say, oh, there's a hole there, and put a stake in the ground and say, okay, I'm gonna put a rose there, and when I prune all these perennials back, I know where the rose is gonna go because I have a reference point. So it's just something to think about. Lots of stakes and lots of roses in your yard is a good thing, and I'm sure you can find lots of room to fit more roses in.
Always room for roses. So we've been talking a little bit about the heat. I know I can take care of my rose once it arrives if I water it enough, but what about in transit? I'm a little nervous to order one in transit in this heat.
Yeah, so I've told, since the beginning of our nursery, we've always had this principle of your rose has to do really well upside down in a box for 7 days. That's our goal. That's how we design all of our packaging and our whole shipping process of cleaning, grooming, getting the plant all ready. So your plant's going to do really well in transit. We guarantee it. If there's a problem, we're going to replace it. That being said, also, it's really hot in Oregon right now. It's just like everywhere else. You might think Oregon, rain. Well, it's in the greenhouses, it's up to 110 degrees on a regular basis. So these roses are used to heat. It's not like they're coming out of 60 degrees Oregon and going to Oklahoma or something. No, it's hot here and they're used to it. They're going to do really well.
So if I'm in zones 7 to 10, do I need to do anything to protect my rose for winter since we have more mild winters in those zones?
I think it's always a great idea to mulch around your roses. We do get cold weather patterns here, and that can happen anywhere. And so just adding a layer of mulch just to help protect those roots is a great idea.
And what about in lower zones, zone 6 and colder? How should I protect my newly planted fall rose?
Lots of mulch. Literally, your newly planted rose, you plant 6 weeks before your last fall date, and then you really mound that mulch right up around the plant. And I know that they make cones and other things that go over roses, and you can try. I don't have any experience with those. That's a Midwest really cold weather thing. I think they probably work okay, but really a lot of mulch, and then an own root rose. If you have some dieback on the top over the winter, the beauty is those roots are going to send up new shoots, and you're going to regenerate your plant. So it's going to do really well. Don't be afraid of a little bit of dieback. It's going to rejuvenate itself and do well.
So my newly planted fall rose, do I need to prune it before winter hits?
That's a great question. We get that a lot. To be honest, all you really need to do is snip off the buds if there's buds there, but it's really, we don't prune a fall planted rose until February when pruning happens, and we're kind of trying to get everything started in a congruent or consistent fashion. So no, you don't need to do much pruning for a fall planting.
Good, one less task. I'll take it. Should I be fertilizing my fall planted rose?
So we say you should never use granular fertilizer on a young plant. So that's just categorically don't do that. It's a little too hot and they don't do well. But liquid fertilizer is really good for your plant, and I say to go ahead and use liquid fertilizer right up until about your last frost date. It's pretty gentle. There's not a lot of concentrate to it, and it's gonna wash out, but it will ensure that your rose has everything it needs to keep growing and be strong going into winter. And then as it goes dormant, there's not gonna be a lot left over with a liquid feed, so it'll be fine.
Are there any parts of the country where fall planting is really preferential?
Well, I don't know, for all of us outside of California, we just think California is springtime all the time, right? It feels warm, it's nice. And really, fall planting in California is really a great time. It's probably the best time because things are actually cooling off a little bit, but they're not going to get harsh and cold. So for California, Arizona, on down those southern states, that's probably a preferential time. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I think that's a great time to plant your own root rose in the fall because their dormancy is coming out of a hot wave, and so they're actually waking up in a different kind of way, and so fall is a great time to plant.
So do you have any recommendations or tips for which rose should I choose if I've got 1 or 2 spots left in my garden?
Well, I do love Earth Angel. I think it's a great rose, and planting it now is it's the rose that when you want cut flowers, boy, you want those roses because they're just soft and they kind of droop and they're just a beautiful bouquet. So I think that's a great rose to plant in the fall.
And I just brought home like 20 Madame Anisettes. And I like that rose a lot. It's like my day. I have a favorite rose of the day, pretty much. That changes all the time. But anyway, I saw that the other day in bloom in a greenhouse. We had some space at home we were filling in, and so I planted fall planting with Madame Anisette. I can hardly say it, but it's beautiful. It's a great disease-resistant Cortez rose, and I'm a big fan of Cortez.
I have that one too. I love her. Thanks so much for chatting with me today about growing roses in the fall. I appreciate it.
Happy to do it. So for more information on growing roses and to find beautiful own root roses for your garden, visit us at heirloomroses.com.